in the past, here's how we fixed it in the past is a great answer.
Right.
Because a lot of times the guy that you're bringing in is being brought in because there's a problem. I mean, they just don't, oh, this company's hitting on all cylinders. Let's bring in a new CEO. That's not how that happens, right? There is a problem. And if they can demonstrate that they've done it in the past and it wasn't kind of a lucky thing, they get a couple bonus points for that. Um,
Right.
but if they say, I've made a few mistakes and here's what I learned, that also gets you a few bonus points.
Right. For sure. For sure.
If you're a CEO, you're flamboyant and intelligent and aggressive. I mean, that's how you get to be a CEO.
Right.
I also like talking to the CFO, especially the one where they'll go kind of look at you like, whatever he just said, multiply by 0.8, and I'll feel more comfortable about I love talking to CFOs more than CEOs.
Right.
It's
It's good to get both. It's good to get both. It's amazing though. A lot of these CFOs know just as much as the CEO about the company, and
yeah,
they had a different perspective. It's good to, and there's a little more rational kind of thought there too sometimes with a CFO, right? Because the CEO is the idea man a lot of times, or idea woman,
yeah,
and and you hear the passion, but sometimes you get the CFO who puts it all in focus for you.
yeah, because he has to pay for it, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that reminds me of another thing I look at when I'm looking at, so like going back to modeling and things like that. So once, oh, this is kind of interesting company, and then we do the 10Ks and the annuals and the proxy. The proxies are great because you get to see who's on the board and compensation and ownership, all that stuff. Then when I start, like, I like to build models, not to say, oh, they're going to earn 27 cents this year or $4, or I build it so then I can now tinker with all the different line items. Like, okay, what if they grew sales at 5% and they grew whatever, right? You can just, it's a tool to just play to kind of test the sensitivities of how the companies could work and see if how they, because at Tice, one of the things that we would do, we were one of the first guys to look at like cash flow as it relates to growth in sales and earnings. And as we say, earnings are an opinion, cash is a fact. So
Right.
I always start with the cash flow. I work from the cash flow statement backwards. Is how
Okay.
I always start with the cash flow statement. And the other thing you got to pay attention to is changes in working capital can go all over the place to kind of kind of screw up the cash from operations line, right? Because of
Hmm.
swings. So I kind of like to look at cash from operations before all working capital changes, and then after to see if it matters, or if it's cyclical or whatever. Uh,
Right.
but then when I kind of get back to the income statement, I'm more interested in it, and it's kind of a way that a lot of people don't look at it. I don't care about, and I know that you do, and this is why I like working with you and your deal is you are a big sales growth guy. And I've read Phil Fisher's book, Super Stocks, another great book, because that talks about, kind of enterprise value to sales of technology companies that are growing. Uh,
Right.
but the thing that I learned, because I was the guy who had to write up Amazon back in the day for David Tice when it was negative cash flow business and it was going to zero.
Right.
I said, you guys are ridiculous. It's not going to zero, although I didn't buy a share. So who cares? But I had lots of arguments with short sellers saying you guys are wrong. So yay for that. But the thing that people missed, and the thing that I took from that, and I say this when I'm in these meetings with the CEOs and CFOs, I'm like, look, you can't spend gross margin. You can't spend revenue growth. You can only spend gross profit dollars.
Okay.
So, because if you think about how an income statement works, sales, cost of goods sold, gross profit dollars, and then everything else, SG&A and all that crap, right?
Right.
So unless you have 100% margin sales, COGS is going to take away whatever is up there.
Right.
So you have to understand if the business, and the thing I bring up Amazon was great. They were sacrificing their margin. Their gross margin was going down, which is what people look, their gross margin is collapsing. It's eventually going to go to nothing.
Right.
But this was, but that was helping them grow their business, their gross profit dollars. In spite of that, were growing faster than their SG&A and all their other expenses.
Okay.
So if you can grow your gross profit dollars faster than your SG&A and everything else, you're also going to get leverage at the business model. Now, are rising sales and rising margins better? Yes. But I think people get too tied up in the direction of the margins and not what's the net result of that.
Right.
I can only spend, as a CFO, I can only spend gross profit dollars. I can't spend revenue number, and I can't spend changes in margins.